Hello everyone! Thank you very much for participating to this presentation. I'm Nobuyuki Kobayashi, photographer based in Japan. Usually, I'm taking photographs for advertisement. In parallel with that, I'm making my own works in Japan. So, it's like this. So, about the making of works, I'm using Platinum Palladium process and I print it on Washi paper. Washi means Japanese traditional paper. Then I also selected kozo paper. So I'm choosing these materials to take picture for gods. It's like portraits of gods. For your information, so please look this. I'm taking these pictures. These are tree, stone, and water. Probably you thought that these are not gods, just nature. However, I felt that the god dwelt in these. Then I took it. So, these are gods. It's the gods like only for me. However, I am so glad if you felt it in the same way. This is because it's my shooting concept. Well, I want to talk about this and that concerning gods on this occasion as I had a fantastic relationship in this time. The theme is creation of my work concept and subtitle is Shinto and my photographic process. Sort of my works, how the concept is made, and how does it influence to make of my works. I would like to talk about it to you all. So, please associate with me for a while. Well, at first, I want to explain about Shinto. Shinto is the indigenous faith of the Japanese. It is a way of life and a way of thinking that has been an integral part of Japanese culture since ancient time. And Shinto is not religion, and its teaching and is a way of thinking. In addition, it is said that God dwells in all things, and the people worship nature and feel the awe and preach it to grow while thanking all phenomena. So, Japanese people are living among gods. That's why the stone, the tree, and water are all gods. And mountains and seas are also gods. All things became an object of thanks. This is a way of thinking of the Japanese Shintoism. Therefore, I keep it in mind when I want to take a portrait of gods, as beautiful as possible. Well, I will start main part from now. My style is largely influenced by my own personality formation. So, I will start talking about my background. Maybe I think that everyone here is interested in photography. So, I hope that you will save the part of what I thought and what I did on that occasion in this lecture and use it to improve your own photography skills. Because if you pursue only skills of photography, I think that probably you will never get better. Photography became an effective medium that if you have feeling and thought, your thought will be certainly conveyed to someone. So to speak, photography is a communication tool. Therefore, it can be said that it's only mere masturbation if someone took photos for themselves without anyone. Always thinking what you think, what you want, how framing and what you want to express. It becomes your concept. So please aim to share your thoughts with others about being aware of what you are communicating and connecting. Well, I hope that you can feel the basics of making of works through my background. This is a place where I was born and brought up, and I don't know why, but I had strong curiosity and had independent spirit when I was early childhood. In any way, I strongly thought to want to leave home and wanted to go somewhere far away. I didn't want to stay in the same place. I remember that I explored different places every day. It happened from when I was a kindergarten student until I went out into society. And my first experience to go abroad was when I was 21 years old. The destination was Alaska. Needless to say, the great experience to meet wonderful nature at that time gave me big influence to my outlook of nature. But at that time, I was not yet interested to take a picture of landscape. Later, I take only photos of people who live in Asia because I was interested in the way of life of those people. The reason was why Japan was changed, and because I had some doubts as why Japanese people lost cultures and why we lost traditional lifestyle. However, one day, I encountered a shocking photograph. It was a photo of monotone, but it was so beautiful print that has full of gradation and also felt rich color. At that moment, I felt a strong desire to it and wanted to make my works the same as it someday. Then I promised it in my mind. I didn't know it at that moment. Actually, it was a platinum Palladium print. However, it took over 10 years until I can do it. The reason was that I wanted to begin from making good negative films before doing the platinum print. If I didn't understand it deeply, it is impossible to control delicate gradation of the platinum print, I thought. Then I went over to New York. It was because I wanted to study development of negative film and also wanted to acquire the basic skills of the gelatin silver print. Needless to say, a series of skills that I learned there was very useful to make print production. I began various future preparations for full-scale business activities in New York, parallel with practices in the darkroom. The plan that I made in that way was to go around throughout the United States by a camper. The plan was to know deeply about the details of the United States, such as people's life and their local culture. It was that I rented a camper in Florida, and then I drove it all over the country, passed through the central part of US and go to LA. After that, I planned to go back to New York through the route of cross to the border of Canada. However, the original purpose of this travel was to touch to local culture and climate in the United States. But the purpose of the trip turned to visit national park because I was charmed by magnificent nature I encountered on the way. I think the sense that I have now, such as refreshing and such as excitement when I take nature, was born and lies during this trip. Anyhow, as I mentioned before, my plan was to rent a car in Florida, go to LA, and then go back to New York. Actually, the total distance that I drove from Florida to LA was about 17,000 kilometers. It was so long. It took 75 days. But when I was in LA, I encountered a car break-in. Everything, including all photographs I took, was stolen. Also, the tons of films I photographed in National Park were stolen too. All things were gone. I was so shocked. I was completely disappointed. I loved to take photos of people so far, but I didn't want to trust a person anymore. However, even though I was in such a situation, I noticed that saving me was also people. It's because many people held out a helping hand to me. So I changed my mind and bought a new camera in LA, and I headed to Yosemite National Park. Grandeur and heavenliness of nature there were really different from conventional nature I met before. Maybe my mind at that time gave me that feeling. Anyway, it sank into my mind very much. Eventually, I found a breakthrough in it. It's because I jumped out abroad with much effort. I started to think of exploring about interesting things more and developing myself by taking photos. Therefore, I decided not to go back to Japan. Later, I started a journey with a backpack to understand myself as a Japanese and also as Asian. During these 4 years, I traveled to various countries and met various people. As a result of that, I was able to see the various things that I didn't see before, particularly about religion and war. Actually, when I was a student in vocational college of photography, I was going to Sri Lanka to teach technical skills for 2 years. However, this opportunity was gone because of Gulf War. It was a very bad experience because my life plan was completely changed. Therefore, I was really sensitive about why does war break out. And I met people who believe various religions. When I met with them as an individual, everyone was a Washi person with deep understanding. But some problems still happen. It increases than before, and various problems still happen in each place. I thought about why deeply. Why does such a thing happen? Then, it is natural that my thought went to Japanese religion outlook. But it is said that Japan is a country without any religion. It's correct. My country takes in the way of thinking of various countries and religious culture now. It's like a carnival country throughout the year. Because of so many events such as St. Valentine's Day, Christmas, and Halloween, and more. But on the other hand, traditional teaching is still reminding that is Shintoism. It is telling us that live daily life with thank for all, because God do in all things, as I told you before. I can say that this way of thinking brings current Japanese diversity in a good way. If so, I thought, how about making my works under the theme diversity? But the word diversity feels too much vague. Therefore, I thought that I tried to embody the example as God do in all things based on the way of thinking of Shintoism. But the problem is, how can I express it? When I saw it, I had a flashback of my past experience. The objects that a human being should have a feeling of awe are nature and natural phenomenon, and things we have to value and deliver to future generations are also nature. Even if we develop an advanced civilization, it's not possible for us to live without water and soil. Don't you think so? Well, I concluded that I found gods in nature and want to photograph them as portraits. And this thought reminded me of the past admiration. Yes, it's a platinum print. For this reason, I aimed at going to New York again. In New York, I learned the skills by the same master as before. In addition, I borrowed another darkroom different from workshop particularly, and I spent all my time to improve my skills. Then, when I felt confidence with my techniques, the shocking incident happened. It was September 11 terrorist attack. By this matter, my life plan was changed again. Then, I come to think deeply more than before about the view of life and death. Because of that, too many information boards about the missing person were built up in Manhattan, and I saw a lot of people who broke down in tears. Anyhow, my original plan was to stay in New York and restart business activity, but I decided to go back to Japan by this model. Actually, my savings already ran out, so I was forced to spend poor life for a long time after I got back to my home in Japan. Additionally, Japan had a really bad economy at that time. I couldn't get jobs easily, and I was facing difficulties every day. But my wife supported me very much. I am really grateful. Even though Japanese economy was still in bad situation, I made a small darkroom little by little. It took 4 months to complete it because everything was handmade. It means that I finally got my own base. After the darkroom was completed, the only thing I had to do was to make prints. But important item for me was not still coming. It was a paper for base of my print, which is Japanese traditional paper called Washi I mentioned before. As I wanted to photograph a portrait of gods based on teaching of Shintoism, so I wanted to use the printing materials that is close to Japanese style as possible. By the way, there is the word yubi, so which is symbolizes the Japanese sense of beauty. Yubi is a combination word. Yu means gentle and superior, and bi is beautiful. So the word of yubi is special aesthetic word for me. That's why the washi paper was a very important item for me to realize a feeling of an elegant world. In addition, the environmental disruption has not stopped along with development of the economy. However, I had a feeling that I want to leave things that may disappear someday. This is a feeling that I want to pass on the exist nature to future generations as a photographer. As you know, the platinum print does not cause age deterioration. It is the best technique to choose for leaving it. Therefore, a support of the platinum print must be the paper, which continue living without any age deterioration. In that sense, washi was ideal material for me. Therefore, I went for a trip to look for ideal washi paper. There are a lot of places to produce washi paper in Japan. I visited many places and I tried to use many local washi papers, but none of them went with my image. I saw that all kinds of washi paper were acceptable for me, but it was different. The trip to look for washi paper continued for a long time. Still, I was not able to meet my ideal paper. But one day, I suddenly remembered it, that there was the production place of the washi paper near my hometown. And I went there without any expectations. But the darkest place is under the candlestick. Surprisingly, it was very good. I was captivated by the paper at first glance. Every aspect, such as texture and feeling, met my ideal. Besides, what I have to emphasize is the manufacturing method. It is made by same techniques without any change from Edo era. In Japan, a lot of washi papers made in that era still remain. So, it would be the evidence that washi paper continues living for a long century, almost 1,300 years. The paper was Hosokawa paper that I am using now. This paper was listed on UNESCO World Cultural Heritage in 2014. After that, I continued using Hosokawa paper honestly without looking at other washi papers. And I repeated trial and error to confirm the affinity with the platinum print. Then my walkthrough of the present was completed. So, if there is an opportunity, please see my works directly and carefully. I'm sure that gradation, three-dimensional impression, glossiness, and atmosphere will destroy your concept of the conventional photographs. In any cases, what I want to convey through this work is that I want to leave the thing which may be lost. And one more is a feeling to admire the precious things and the generosity as accepting. As the generosity, actually I don't know whether I have the capacity or not. Anyway, if destruction of nature continues, our forest would be disappeared. The economic growth is not synonymous with the richness of the heart. Religion is not triggered to start fighting. It is support of the heart, and it should be something people can rely on. If so, accept other people, accept other cultures, and accept other sense of values. If it is possible, it would enable our lives and hearts to become more richness, I think. And I think that everybody here also has a culture coexisting with Mother Nature, the same as my way and the same as Japanese old way of thinking. I talked about the Gulf War and 9/11 terrorist attack before. But before those, in Japan, Hanshin Awaji great earthquake disaster happened, and the Sumatra earthquake happened too in Asia. At each places, I have seen people's life and death. Through this experience, I began to think about what is the end of things. That's why, when the East Japan Great Earthquake disaster occurred about 9 years ago, I visited the field as soon as possible, and I started the activity to pray for the future of the victims. That activity is March 11 Portrait Project. Actually, this activity connected me to European countries to hold the exhibition of my works. In any case, while I'm making the works through the view of life and death and religious outlook, I have one thing that I clearly feel, that is give. On the other hand, the meaning of photographs is take. Take is the same as get or catch. I have been doing a lot of take until now, taking photographs. But I learned that only doing take is insufficient as a human while I took a trip in the world. So, humans should do give. If I do give, my heart became rich and peace is coming. I'm thinking like that. And I think that is connecting to contribution for society as a photographer. It realized that the thinking of Shintoism as giving thanks to everything is also alive here. That's why I can say this. Happiness only real when shared. For such a reason, my work's concept was decided at Portrait of Nature Myriads of Gods. Well, how did you feel? How did you think about? It took a long time, I'm sorry, but this is my background, and it's a path that leads to my current style. I think that you could realize that the concept was built based on experience values and fun ideas. It is not just simple ideas, and also not trends. I would be glad if you use this as a reference when you create your own theme or a concept in your future. So again, I sincerely appreciate you all. Goodbye. Maybe let's see you again in the future.
僕の作品作りのテーマは八百万の神です。
なんていうか、消費されていく写真ではなくて、その未来永劫残る写真を撮っていきたいんですね。なくなってしまう可能性があるものを残していきたいっていう部分があるんですね。この世の中でどういうプロセスを経てどういう形にしていけば残っていくのかっていうのを考えていった時に、プラチナ
なぜ和紙を使うのか、小川町の細川和紙っていう和紙をチョイスするか、これはやっぱり1000年生き抜くことが実証されている紙だからなんですね。
この時代の地球にはこういう自然があったんだ、こういう風景があったんだっていうことを明確に残したいというか伝えたいんですよね。